Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking all about what I spent in May and what I'm budgeting for June. If you're new here, my name is Kaylee. I talk about what intentional living looks like for me and what I do to make sure that I'm living my most intentional life. My hope for you is that you might learn some tips and tricks to add to your own life as you start to find what intentionality looks like for you. These are some of my favorite videos to make, more so because I get to sit down and really dive in to my spending habits. Typically, my dog prefers to be under a blanket when I am sitting and filming, but it is just too hot. It's too hot here in Georgia. I walked out of my house this morning and immediately started sweating, and it's just that time of year, and it will continue to go on for months and months, but that's fine. We're diving into how I felt in May. I felt really good, honestly. There was, I don't even want to use the word anxiety. There was some worry about what it would look like because I knew our income would be less than our spending this month. It just was inevitable for the amount of things that we needed to spend money on. And two, for traveling, when we were traveling, it was going to interfere with how much we could make in the month. But because I knew that and because it wasn't a surprise, it was a lot easier to handle it once I saw it on paper / my spreadsheet here. So since I knew it was going to happen, it was a lot easier to kind of deal with seeing it. Therefore, I was feeling pretty good. I was really excited for our trip, and it was fantastic. It was desperately needed, but it was too short. And of course, I'm always going to say that a trip is too short. If I had been there for 3 months, it would have felt too short, but this was like actually too short. For the time difference, which is 6 hours, and for the plane ride, which is like roughly 8 to 9 hours, it was too short of a trip for 7 full days, especially because we were going there with a purpose. We had some things that we were definitely going to do, definitely going to see, definitely going to attend while we were there, and therefore it made it feel like a much shorter trip. I'm just gonna let this happen. He has also been like level 10 cleaner, and anytime we come home, even if we just went and grabbed something out of the car, he wants this level of attention. It was too short of a trip. Mental note, even if we're trying to save money in a future trip when we go to the Netherlands or overseas in general, 7 days is not enough. It's not enough. Oh my gosh, the jet lag was awful coming home. I have never experienced jet lag like that before. It was awful. Coming home from that trip was hard, but I'm really grateful that we got to do it at all. And that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to hold on to so that I don't feel too sad. It's also nice because we do have a beach vacation coming up in June. And I am so ready for that. I'm so ready for that. I am a little worried about stacking our vacations back to back, like in 2 months, and how that's going to feel the rest of the year, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's talk about percentages. I'm going to run through these fairly quickly, and then I'm going to talk more once I get to the totals about a couple different categories. So I'm just going to go from the top of the pie chart down and around because that's what's easiest for me and my brain right now. Savings was 2% of our budget. I won't say our spending because we saved. 3.3% was groceries. 6.5% was eating out. 5.8% was our insurance payment. 27.7% was rent and utilities. 0.3% was subscriptions. 1.4% for gas. 35.9% for travel. 4.7% for our loan repayment, 3.8% for business expenses, and 8.7% for miscellaneous expenses. I'm not surprised at all by that spread. There are a couple of numbers on the actual dollar amount spending that I wish were a little bit different, but On the whole, this was pretty much how I anticipated the spread to go. So diving into the actual numbers, we budgeted $350 for groceries, but ended up only spending $216.33. Let me talk about the next category, and then I'll talk about them together. We budgeted $300 for eating out, but ended up spending $431.03. I hoped that we would spend more on groceries than eating out, and if you look at the balance of our grocery budget, which was $133, and our overspend on eating out was $131, I wish that had been flipped in a perfect world. However, when we got back from our trip, I realized that even though I had planned I had groceries in the house for meals, but I didn't have exactly what I needed for the full meal. And all of them had to be cooked. I was so jet lagged. So I had zero desire to do any of that. We also ran through the loaf of bread that I had fixed really quickly, and because I was so jet lagged, I kept forgetting to take my sourdough starter out of the fridge. It's now June 3rd and I still haven't made sourdough. I'm hopefully doing it tomorrow or the next day, but I didn't take that out of the fridge. I kept forgetting, so we didn't even have bread to do peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, which would have been our go-to kind of easy thing. Instead, we ate out, and I'm glad that it kind of made up that amount with the amount we didn't spend on our groceries, but I do wish that had been flipped, but it's fine. For rent and utilities, we budgeted $1828.90, spent $1828.90. That's a number that I always know exactly how much it's going to be every month. Subscriptions, same thing, $19.98. We spent $19.98. Gas was a little surprising to me, honestly, because we did still have a lot going on outside of our travel time. So I budgeted $180, but we only ended up spending $90.15, which was really great. Then we come to travel. And I think I had to make a change in the budget. I think I mentioned a change, but I don't remember if I said how much I bumped it to or if I had to bump it again. But initially we had budgeted $1,000 or maybe $1,200 for travel. I had to bump that amount to $2,500 because my brother is getting married in November, and we finally got the dates, and we needed to just go ahead and book the travel. So that added a significant amount because our flights were about $800 and the hotel was a little over $450. We still have to get a rental car, which I am trying to push off that expense, but I know the closer we get to it, the more expensive it will be. And one other thing that we did do in light of having to book that travel when we did is we got a new credit card. So we have, both my husband and I both have a Venture card with Capital One. It's a no annual fee card, and it does collect miles, and we have covered complete trips with the miles that we have earned from that. However, it definitely wasn't paying off for how frequently we travel. I wish I had done it probably back in 2022 when I was traveling a ton, but better late than never. So we got the Venture X card, which is their premium platinum equivalent card. So it does have a $395 annual fee, which I'll talk about later. But the benefits that we get with the card far outweigh the negative for the annual cost. So we did rack up a lot of miles just by booking the flight and the hotel with that new credit card for the wedding in November. However, with all of that, plus everything that we spent on our trip for various things, we covered groceries a couple of times while we were there. We went out to eat once or twice. We bought like comfort seats for our flight home. We went book shopping, which that book shopping counts under travel and not miscellaneous and like out of our book travel budget, because those were our souvenirs, and that is how we're going to get away with that. So for all of those things, plus the $200 that went to my parents for the vacation rental next month, and the roughly $1,500 that it was to get flights and a hotel for November, out of our $2,500 budget, we only spent $23.72.77. So we had $127.23 left over out of that budget, which feels really good because we could have spent a whole lot more, honestly, while we were traveling, but we didn't because, our main purpose of being there was to be with the people we were with. The other reason that amount doesn't bother me too much is because when I was filling in the percentages in like the pie chart, we spent that same amount, like $2,300, on our rent and utilities last year in May. So this year in May, we spent $1,828 in our rent and utilities. The only reason that we're able to spend that kind of money for travel is because we drastically changed how much we're spending for our actual cost of living in a home. So I'm grateful for that. And I can't believe we were spending that much money. When something like this was an option, we just didn't really know about it as an option. Loans, we budgeted $311.43. That's how much we spent. Insurance, we budgeted $381.33. That's how much we spent. Business, we budgeted $235.98, but ended up spending $253.59. So went over budget by $17.61. And that is because I totally forgot that my website domain amount went up a little bit. And then I also booked in for a workshop with a friend of mine in the UK. In miscellaneous and personal, we budgeted $500. We spent $571.78. So we overspent by $71.78. The breakdown of that is one red light purchase, which is really great, which was at a Chevron gas station for some bottles of soda when we were in Griffin and had pizza with a friend, but we didn't have any drinks. That was $4.64. So I definitely call that a win for that being our only red light purchase. We had 4 yellow light purchases. One was $31.63 for a birthday sash for the 16th birthday that we went and celebrated in the Netherlands. It was so expensive because I had to pay like expedited shipping. So I think the shipping ended up being more than the actual cost of the item, but it was worth it. I purchased from a small business through Etsy, and I would rather do that than spend less and get an item that's mass produced from something like Amazon. Then I spent $44.19 to get a calendar, but it's a birthday calendar. So it literally only has like May and then the 31 days of May, but not connected to days of the week and not connected to like a certain year. And so this is something that Dutch people have oftentimes in the bathroom, which I always think is so funny that you can go in the bathroom and see all of their friends and family's birthdays on this calendar. But that is what it is for, to track. So there's a Dutch artist, I love her art, that came out with a birthday calendar, and I really wanted to have one. And so now I do, with the touch of art from a Dutch artist. And then I also got a couple of like greeting cards from her site. At the request of my mother, we paid $26 for Brecker to get a nail trim before we went out of the country. She was watching him a couple days before we left, and she was like, can he please get a nail trim before he comes and stays at our house for a week? So we took him to get a nail trim, and he needed food. I've now figured out the cadence of ordering his food, so I will be prepared for it in the future. But I think we actually get a free bag next time we go because we buy from Hollywood Feed, and they have a frequent feeder program that once you buy 12 bags of dog food, then you get a bag for free. and we have bought 12, so we should get a free one next time we go. However, I had not budgeted for it this time around, so that was $48.48. Then we have 3 Greenlight purchases. One was the annual fee for a new credit card, $3.95. Another one was $5.50, which was for parking in downtown Roswell. The reason that's green and not yellow is because I knew which restaurant we would go to for Cinco de Mayo, so I knew we would have to pay for parking when we went. And then $31.71 at Target for shampoo, toothpaste, and the Stanley straws. I think in the video when I was budgeting for this month, I talked about getting a pair of white sneakers, which I did actually do, but I bought it when we were traveling, so I put that in the travel budget. So, all in all, we actually underspent our budget by $130.33, which is very exciting. However, we did overspend our income by $1,800-ish, almost $1,900. So that's a bummer because it puts us more in the hole for annual income to expenses up to this point. But like I said, the second half of this year, all of that should shake out to be okay. And I will do everything in my power from a budget perspective to make sure that that happens. One thing I needed to update for June, even though I already budgeted for June, is the miscellaneous and personal budget needs to be upped by like $300 because we're going to have to take Brecker to the vet to get his annual shots and checkup. So I am right now going to change that to like $750, just as a heads up. Also, when I filmed budgeting for June, I forgot to talk about my intentions for June. As always, one of the intentions is to stay within the freaking budget or to come under budget, which would be great. I also really want to prioritize rest and relaxation when we're at the beach and make sure that even though I'm going with my whole family, that I still remember to prioritize myself and what I need to get out of that vacation instead of prioritizing everyone else like I would tend to do. And I hope that even though it is warmer outside, which makes me not want to cook, I hope that we can find some balance in cooking versus eating out, and also prioritize some time outside by the pool or at the dog park with the pup to maximize the vitamin D that Georgia gives us in abundance. That's it for the May overview. Let's budget for June. So I said in my last video when I was budgeting for May that I was also going to be a little nervous about budgeting for June. And I am. And again, it's the same reasons. It's because we're traveling and that affects our income. And not only does it affect our income, but it also affects our expenses because we have to plan to spend a little bit more than we would if we were staying home. And just no matter where you're traveling to, things are always more expensive than you anticipate. So we're trying to budget ahead for that, but wildly enough, Florida is such a toss-up now how expensive things are going to be, and I desperately hope that we stay within budget, but if we don't, it is what it is. We're not going to not have a good vacation, but we are still being very smart with our money. I've seen a lot of videos recently of people talking about not spending more than you earn, and I absolutely agree with that. We overspent our income last year. Luckily, we had savings, and primarily that was spent on loan repayment and paying for my husband's grad degree. But if we didn't have those savings, we would have been $8,000 in debt to credit cards, student loans, car loans, what have you. And that I don't recommend. But we do have savings. So when I say I don't want to change the way that we're going to do vacation, even if we spend a little bit more than we've budgeted for, that's because I know that we have savings in which that's possible. It's not my recommendation. If we were doing it every month, that would be different, but we're not. So with that being said, let's jump in. I'm excited about this month. I think that there are a lot of really good things coming our way, not just this month, but kind of in the summer that I'm looking forward to. And we have vacation coming. I know we just got back from a trip, but we are going to the beach, and a beach vacation is a very different type of travel experience for me. My version of a beach vacation is waking up, eating breakfast, going and sitting on the beach with an umbrella and a drink and a book and sitting there until the sun goes down. So it's the most relaxed and rejuvenated I feel. And it's been a very long time since we have been next to the ocean specifically. I'm very much looking forward to that. But that means that there are definitely going to be some higher expenses this month, even just in prepping for that, because I do hope to do a kind of meal prep to take things on the trip, and I will try and film that for you. Filming the meal prepping stuff is always really difficult, but just because I can't figure out the way that I want to do it that feels the most me, I don't know. But anyways, I will try and film that for you. That is the plan. So our grocery budget is a little higher this month, as well as the travel budget, because some of that will be purchased when we're traveling. And when we're traveling, every dollar that we spend goes into the travel budget. So all of the external budgets are built for the time that we're not traveling, essentially. So let's look at our calendar for the month of June. We will be traveling for 7 days. Sunday through a Saturday. We'll leave Sunday morning. We will head back home Saturday afternoon. So for those 7 days of travel, I have budgeted $1,400. 400 of that is the last payment for our portion of the beach rental, and then 1,000 of that is specifically for expenses while traveling. One thing to note as we go into the rest of the budgeting, when we get to the gas budget, that is specifically for the times we're not traveling. So our gas to and from and while we're in Florida will all go into that $1,000 for the travel budget, which is why it's a little bit higher than you might typically think a Florida vacation would be. We also are only planning to eat out 2 or 3 meals in the evenings, and there is a breakfast place not too far down the road that we love. It's called Wake Up Cafe in New Smyrna Beach. It's Argentinian and Venezuelan food. It's so good. It's so good. So we will be going there at least once for breakfast, and then we might have 2 meals out at dinner time. But all of our lunches and all of our other breakfasts, we are planning to take food for, and then also some of the time for dinners as well. So I'm hoping that that $1,000 is more than we need, but it's what feels comfortable. So $1,000 it is in travel. For the rest of the month, I can see that Jonathan will be away for dinner, doing caretaking 7 days. And my dinner will be taken care of 2 nights, and one of those nights overlaps. So with 30 days in the month, 7 of those were on vacation. 8 of those our dinner will be taken care of by caretaking money. So that leaves us with 15 evenings where we will both be at home. Actually, that's not true. It'll probably be more like 13 or 14 days. Either way, 13 or 14 days at home. If I say that we're going to eat out for 7 of those, oof. I'm going to say half because that's what's been happening. I'm going to do less of an amount per meal so that we try and stick within a smaller budget amount, but we have been eating out a lot more than I would like us to. And instead of trying to force us to not eat out by putting a really small number for the eating out budget, I'm going to make it a little bit higher in hopes that we come under budget. So I'm going to do $375 for eating out, and I'm going to do $400 for groceries. I don't know how that'll pan out by the end of the month, but that's kind of my inclination. $400 for groceries, $375 for eating out. And we will hopefully come under budget in both of those, or at least one of them. Rent and utilities, it's the same thing every month. I already know what we owe, so I've budgeted $1,807. That covers rent, utilities, internet, and our phone bill. Subscriptions is $19.98. Spotify and Disney Plus. This is the last month we'll be paying for Disney Plus, and then we will get rid of it. So that'll be $3 extra per month in our account. Gas, I'm going to have to increase the budget. I was hoping to leave it at $180, but I think I'm going to have to bump it to $200 because we're doing a lot of caretaking in the month of June, and that just increases how often we are on the road, and it increases the distance in which we drive when we're on the road versus when we're driving to and from work or to and from kind of our normal places that we go. Those are much shorter distances. So I'm gonna budget $200 for gas. Travel, we already talked about. Loans, we're going to come back to. And then insurance is the same every month. So I've budgeted $381.33. That's our car insurance for both vehicles, umbrella policy, life insurance for both of us. Business expenses, I'm going to put it at $30 for business expenses because that covers all of my overhead costs for iCloud storage, my Google Workspace account, and our Adobe subscription. And I think that should be all that comes out of business expenses for the month of June. Then we have miscellaneous and personal. Listen, we have so many things to buy. It is not even funny. I know this happens at least once a year, if not twice a year, where what we need all just falls in the same period of time. And here we are in one of those times where so many things need to be repurchased, and therefore the amount is much higher than typical. I think I did the math, and it's roughly $338 for all of the items that we need to purchase. But let me just run down the list. We're out of multi-purpose cleaner for like the surfaces in our home. We are almost out of dish soap, but that's one of those things that I never know when it's going to run out, and I always purchase it too soon. So I'm actually going to wait until it has to be repurchased and just go out that day and purchase more. So maybe some of these things can be pushed to July if I'm doing it that way, but my thought is it's probably going to be in June. Body wash, same thing. I typically repurchase before I need it, so I'm going to wait until I'm actually out and then go and purchase that. Another one of those items is face wash. I am very low, but because it's a really big container, I'm never sure how long it's actually going to last. So I'm going to wait until I'm out to purchase it, but I do need to repurchase it. And I have been using a CeraVe facial face wash, and it's fine. When I first started using it, I liked it quite a lot, but the more that I've used it, the more I don't like it. But I'm not someone who, like, it wasn't causing any irritation to my skin. It wasn't causing me to break out. It wasn't causing a rash or anything like that. So I have used it up, and I will use it until the last drop comes out of the bottle. But then I'm going to repurchase the face wash that I actually really love. And it's nearly $80. But it does last a year, at least, if not a little bit longer than a year. It's the Fresh Soy Face Cleanser, and it's the best. It smells like cucumbers. It's a very odd smell, but the texture of it and the feeling of my skin after and the way that it cleans my skin, nothing else compares. And I just have to repurchase that. So it's a spendy purchase, and it may or may not happen this month, but I am budgeting for it in case it does, because that's a high ticket price. We need new Brita filters for our Brita water dispenser. We are completely out of SodaStream carbonation, so we need to repurchase the carbonation canisters, and we need to repurchase some SodaStream flavors, kind of a SodaStream refresh. I am a little worried because the last time that we got the refill canisters from like a local store, they said that they weren't getting a lot of the blue bottle anymore. Our SodaStream is really old. I think we got it in like 2019. So they're not getting sent as many of the blue bottles anymore. Now the carbonation filters are in pink containers, but they don't fit our model. So it's possible that eventually we will have to replace our SodaStream machine, but I will do everything in my power to push that off as long as possible to not have to make that big purchase, as long as we can find the refill canisters somewhere, even if that's ordering it online through the SodaStream website, which just makes it take a little bit longer to get them in. We need some sunscreen, both just because we're out in general and we're going to the beach soon. So we'll be purchasing a larger amount instead of like one bottle. We'll probably get like 3 or 4 just so that that lasts us through the rest of the summer. I am out of Pepcid pills. I get really bad heartburn kind of out of nowhere. And if I don't have those for emergency situations, it's not a fun time for me. So I need to repurchase those. I do take some enzymes and different supplements to help curb that, and it's been really helpful recently, but just in case, I do want to make sure that I have it on hand, especially when we're traveling too, because if we go out to eat and they use a type of oil or spice that my body isn't used to, it can have massive repercussions. Also, I don't mean that if it's too spicy. I love spicy food. If there's a scale of like a 1 to 10 spice at a restaurant, I am somewhere between a 5 and a 7 most of the time. So I don't mean spicy. I just mean if they use like a certain combination of spices that I'm not used to, it can flare my indigestion issues. So I want to have Pepcid on hand. This one annoys me just because it's one of those purchases that I don't want to have to make. But my husband's phone case is falling apart. It has lasted almost 2 years, and that's good because he's pretty rough on his phone and also like putting it in and out of his pocket all of the time. And so it's literally falling apart at this point. So he needs a new phone case. We're getting him a new phone case. But I'm annoyed at having to get a new phone case. I'm annoyed when I have to get a new phone case. Whenever I buy my phone, I try to get a case that I'm like, okay, I want to stick with you for the rest of time until I have to get a new one or until I get a new phone. So mine's still going strong, but Jonathan's is falling apart. And then the final thing that I know that I will need to purchase is my day and night moisturizer. This is another one of those things where I probably could push it to July, but it'll just really depend on how much is in the containers that I can't see through. But I want to go ahead and budget for it because again, it's a little bit of a spendier amount. So I did budget for that as well. So all of those things are roughly $338, I think. So I'm setting the miscellaneous and personal amount at $475 to give buffer. And the other thing that I will make sure that I do once we come back from traveling, because we don't have any other travel on the calendar until September or November, is my travel containers. I won't put them away. I'll leave them kind of out with my other products, and I will use up what is in the travel containers before I purchase any new items. So it's very possible that some of these things won't need to be purchased until July, which is great. I'll come under budget. But in case they run out in the month of June, I did want to budget for them because they are more expensive products. Therefore, I don't want to have a ton of yellow and red light purchases in the month of June if I can keep from it. Popping back over to loans, here's the plan. The plan is we're going to pay off our car in the month of June, which is so exciting. Jonathan is getting his last reimbursement from his job for his master's degree. And instead of putting that directly towards the student loans, which we typically do, we are going to use the bulk of that to pay off our car, which is really only about $600. And then the additional, we're just going to have that serve as additional income this month instead of earmarking it for student loans, because we are still in the negative for like annual to date spending to expenses. So I still want to get that to a positive number. Again, once my husband finishes his certification exam, our income is drastically going to shift, And so we can be a lot more aggressive towards the end of this year. But right now, I want to play it a little bit more safe than we have been playing it, just to ease some anxiety. So we're going to pay off our car for sure, and then potentially earmark some money for student loans if we have it by the end of the month. So I think I said that I would let you know in this video how much we were paying. That's not going to happen. I will let you know in the quarterly update, probably, if we ended up making a payment on the student loans with anything that we set aside from this past quarter. I think that's it. I mean, we've got a lot going on this month. I'm going to be so excited to see our car loan go down to zero. We purchased the car in December of 2019, so we're paying it off a little bit early. That's exciting. But yeah, we've got some good things coming up, some exciting financial milestones like paying off the car, but then also still a little anxiety around our income to our expenses this month. But it is what it is. We have savings to cover us, and we can be a lot more aggressive with the things that we want to in the second half of this year, and I'm not too pressed about it. I have a very different feel towards our money right now than I did a month or two ago, and that's exciting. Good things on the horizon, some exciting videos coming your way, and yeah, until next time.